Okay, good evening. This is the Town of Barnstable Waterways Committee meeting for Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. And present for this meeting are committee members Greg Egan, Jacob Angelo, Gary Schramik, and Todd Willantis. Do we have Todd on here?
Right here.
Gotcha. You weren't popping up on my screen. Thanks, Todd. And for the town of Barnstable, we have Deputy Harbor Master Jay Horn and Administrative Assistant Polly Plachinsky. Before we get going, I have to notify folks that this meeting is being uh, recorded and broadcast on Channel 18, the town's site, and in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. I must inquire if anybody is recording this meeting, and if so, please make their presence known to the chair. Hearing none, we will get along with the agenda. First item on the agenda. We're going to act on the minutes May 20th, 2025. Has everybody had a chance to read those?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Okay, if so, I'll take a motion to accept as written.
Make a motion to accept.
Thanks, Todd.
I second.
All right, thanks, Gary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. The next we have notices of intent, 251 Greens Dune Drive. This is a continuation from last meeting, proposed project for a dock and float. And it was brought to the applicant's attention that the intention of using a motorized vessel was not clear. And the applicant needs to go back to the committee to make clarification, applicant provided a revised plan in response to comments from the conservation agent. Despite the applicant's assurance that Jay, can you go back at one?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
That's okay.
Getting ahead of myself.
And despite the applicant's assurance, okay, that the significant change in the vessel's site, navigation constraints, and potential impact on the surrounding waterway, which is commonly used for kayaking and paddleboarding. Members requested a detailed schematics for further review before deciding on this matter. So we have the representative, the engineer on this project.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Chairman. Jose Pichar with Green Seal Environmental. So yes, at our last meeting, you requested additional information with an overlay aerial photograph showing the design plans. I provided that information to you and kind of highlighted the areas where the committee had additional questions about the project. I also drafted the vessel to a scale. So as you can see on that image, it's pretty much insignificant compared to all the clear open water that it has. So if I added the 100-foot buffer from the proposed pier, the 200 and the 300, just for your easy review. Or added the property lines in color, so you could see it because you had some questions about it. And other than that, there's not much that I can say. You approved this project 2 months ago. The conditions have not changed. The site is still the same. The pier design and floats are the same. The vessel is a little bit bigger, but it does comply with everything and does not create, to the best of our knowledge, any issues with the navigations. So with that being said, I can open up for question. And if you like to show the image, Jay, that would be helpful as well.
Also, Jose, I'm going to jump in. David Lawler, also on behalf of the applicant. And, Jose did a wonderful job with the plans here. My memory was we did mention that it was a motorized vessel before, but that's water under the bridge, as they say. But I do want to point out that the boat that is being picked here is very unique and is very special for this particular area. It's called a 34 Seacat, and it's essentially a flats boat. It only draws 14 inches of water. And, then the applicant, it generally is certainly not intending to be going out at low tide. But, conforms, with the area. It's also equipped with a joystick, so it makes maneuverability, very tight, can get in and out, essentially, on a dime. I know that, I used to, you know, cringe going into certain areas, and then once I got a joystick on my boat, I feel like I'm a superstar and pulling it in. It's actually cheating, but uh, it's but with the but with that respect, it's certainly, I believe, complies with everything under your regulations and is certainly appropriate for this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawler. Jay Horn, Deputy Harbor Master, Mooring Officer. Just wanted to refresh everyone's memory. We're talking about 251 Greens Dunes in Halls Creek. There was a little ambiguous on the plans exactly where the dock was going to be located. And I just want to say that the Harbor Master Department did do its due diligence since the last meeting. We went out for a site visit. It is exactly where they say that it was going to be. And I do have the overlay for the committee. Let me just share my other screen so everyone can see it.
Jay, while you're doing that, I just want to mention to Attorney Lawler the reason it's back here again is it was first proposed a small two-person motorized dinghy, and then after a report of a shellfish committee or shellfish report, the engineer came back with this revised version of this much larger craft, albeit the draft is as you state, a flats boat, but it's got a much more significant beam. So that's where the departure of the Waterways Committee was as far as our consideration from a small two-person motorized dinghy to a much larger vessel. So that's why we're back here again.
Oh, thank you. I was unaware. So that my mistake. I thought it was an issue of the motorization that we had mentioned, not necessarily the.
No, it's basically the size consideration now.
Okay. Okay. My apology.
Yes, that is correct.
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. So everyone can see the overlay now of where this dock is being proposed. Again, they had it staked out. I had two of our staff members go down there and look at the area. At this time, the Harbor Master Department doesn't have any concerns in terms of navigation. We're in approval of this project. I know it's a very shallow draft. Any other issue is up really for the Conservation Committee, but in terms of navigation itself, I'm in approval of this project. There's a ton of room around this entire structure for kayaks and for small vessels to get by.
Okay, Jay, do we have a picture or any representation of, you can zoom in of where the dock is and the vessel on the dock so we can all be clear? I understand it's in between these 2 points, which is tucked in, which is good. We just want to see where it is relative to deep water and maneuverability around the boat and the dock once the boat is on the dock.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So the red line that you see at the end, that is the boat, the proposed boat draft to scale, and all the pink outlines is the proposed pier and the float.
Jose, I made you a co-host. Do you have images of the water depths around this vessel from the survey you guys took?
It's right on the overlay image. If you zoom into it, you should be able to see all the blue, the grid. Those are the water depths.
The blue is the water depths?
Yes, that is the grid that I printed on the overlay from our model. We have the entire bottom scan. So
I
like
can't see any, you can't see any water depths like on the,
can you bring the original image, maybe, Jay? Because I have mine and you can see it clearly if you zoom in.
Yeah, just give me a second. I have the files that you sent me. Um,
I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, we went in there and there is no deep water.
yeah, it's just very shallow everywhere.
Yes, that is correct. It is, and it's pretty much flat, but it does meet with the requirements to provide the clearance that is needed and allowed.
what were those requirements? Do you remember what they were off the top of your head?
You needed to provide 12 inches of clearance from the bottom of the propeller to the bottom of the in-water ground. And it does provide that.
So
Conservation did in conservation.
prop shaft?
Conservation did not have any issues with that. All they were concerned was about basically maneuverability and stuff like that. But they were okay with the depths.
Jay, my only concern with this whole thing is, after being in there and seeing the width and the space, and I agree with the harbor master's office. To my eyes, it doesn't look like it would impede anything. It's all super shallow and certainly not a high traffic area for anything other than maybe a kayak or a paddleboard. The only concern that I would have is that, and I would be in favor of this dock 100%, as long as there's no provision for this homeowner, dock owner to claim hardship and try to motivate the town, the harbor master's office, to draft in there because he can't get his boat in. He's knowingly putting a vessel of that size in an area that is subpar depth wise. That's my only concern with the entire project. I'm grateful that conservation's good, that it's not a shellfish area, but there's no water. There's just no water. And I don't want to see it come back with a hardship saying that, we okay to dock in a 34-foot vessel and he can't get it off the dock.
I mean, Todd, if I may, well, Mr. Melendez, Todd.
Todd's great.
I know it is. I'm teasing. Thank you. And I appreciate that. That's the reason he spent all this time investigating the cat and the 14-inch draft, because otherwise, you're right. I mean, if he came in with a pursuit or a whaler or something like that, you'd have to, dredge, but it's not that boat. The very design of that boat, the flat bottom, the whole 9 yards is because of the 14-inch draft. That's what the boat was designed for, and that's why it was researched and going to be purchased.
I'm all for it. I even went to the extent to call the company. They haven't built one yet.
Yeah,
so it doesn't exist.
Yeah, but it's a 14-foot draft, and I think he's hauling
14-inch.
14-inch.
That's what I'm saying. When I say 14 feet, yeah.
So that's my only concern is go build the dock. I said I was going to be for it as long as the space was great, and I'm only one voice, but and we went in there. There's plenty of space, but I personally wouldn't want to entertain a hardship that he can't get his vessel off the dock because of
well,
the depths
another
in
thing
there.
I would like to add is this also requires a state permitting. It's going to require a Chapter 91 license. So at that point, it's the state. You're probably not even the one who would carry with that liability if hypothetically it was a case, which obviously is not. We already explained
That's
that.
great. Personally, I wish you best of luck.
Yeah. And the other thing,
I'm not understanding how it says 1.9 feet at the stern in the draws, which is where the boat usually on an outboard draws the most, and you said draws 14 inches, and 1.9 is almost 2, which is 2 feet, which is 24 inches. So call it 24 inches. Minus
so that is
14
the ground. That is the ground elevation. So for you to get the water depth, you have to compare with the mean low water elevation, which is what they use.
Yeah.
And
So what are those numbers?
And that's the elevation in water. So the low water elevation is a positive 0.1. So you would have to add to any negative number 0.1 to get to the actual water depth at low tide. If it is at high tide, then you'll have to add 3.5, 4 feet of water.
And that's the other thing is that, these are all based upon my clients, is not intending to take this boat out at dead low tide anywhere, come back in at dead low tide. I know that can always happen, but I mean, if he has a 14-inch draft and he's at mid tide, I mean, there's plenty of water under there. And obviously you have to run the numbers, but respectfully, I think this is an issue for conservation, but the engineer tells me that there's at least 26 inches of water there at low tide, which brings you to that 12-foot variable based upon his calculations.
And I also think that for us, the committee, the Attorney Lawler is respectfully pointing out that, our purview is the navigation. Is it a hindrance to navigation? It's not really, it's not within our spec to look at the depth. There's other areas that view that, and our purview is navigation. And does it conform, and does it inhibit anyone? And that's for all of us to render an opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Paul. This is Greg.
Go ahead, Greg.
Thanks. There was a lot of ambiguity last presentation relative to the location of the dock, and I appreciate the applicant came back with this. And to Todd's previous point, the applicant can put whatever boat he wants on there, as long as it's within compliance for the environmental issues that are not really in front of us. I don't see that personally. I don't see that it's in the way of any navigation. It's much clearer this time, and it was good that they came back and brought this so we can see these clearances. I don't have a problem with this proposal, and I'd offer a motion to accept it.
Okay, just a quick question for the engineer. Does this cat boat, does it have jack plates to lift the engines up? Do you know?
I believe it does, yes.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion from any of the members before we put this to a vote?
I would just like to kind of reiterate what I think Todd said about, somebody else, not even this guy, but maybe, having an issue, but maybe down the road, this house is for sale and somebody buys this, and they think that they can put a 34-foot boat in there, but they don't have a super cat, or whatever it's called. So then they want to put a 34 regulator in there, and there's absolutely no way you're gonna. I mean, you can't really go back there in a 17-foot Boston whaler that well unless it's high tide. So, as long as the boat is gonna, meet the requirements, but my only concern would be that, like, kind of what Todd said, that somebody's gonna have a hardship down the road. They're gonna say, well, I just bought this house and I have I can put a 34-foot boat here, but I can't get it in or out.
I mean,
so how do we prevent that from going on,
I think the beauty of it is it wouldn't get back to us.
Hold on. Go ahead, Todd.
At the last meeting, I thought this was like for like a little dinghy or something because the guy was too old to like row.
Well,
was the story I thought I heard. I can't remember it now, but
I think the story is, Jacob, that, we were looking at the last meeting whether it was going to impede navigation because it's a popular spot for paddleboarders and kayakers, and it was very, very deceiving. It actually looked to me anyway like it was the next one up and it was going to block the whole channel, if you will. Okay. As far as the depth, I brought up the hardship because I'm obviously concerned about it. The only thing I'd ask the applicant is, once he gets this 500-gallon fuel-bearing 34-foot catamaran, I'd love to see that it draws 14 inches. I'm amazed by it. But there is nothing that's going to stop navigation because we crapped in there. I think the harbor master reference he did as well, and it's pretty wide open. So I think the only thing they're asking us for is, is it going to stop anyone from kayaking? Is it going to dilute this waterway so no one else can enjoy it because this big dock is jetting out in the middle of it. If it comes back to a hardship, unfortunately or fortunately for us, I think it's going to go to different departments, and at least we have it on record that we spoke about it and we were concerned about it. But as far as impeding navigation, I don't think they've presented any evidence that it has that possibility.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve this proposed dock as presented here by the engineers and Mr. Lawler for the Waterways Committee.
Okay, Greg, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we've got Greg and Todd. So Greg is in favor. I'll just do like a roll call vote.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, in favor.
Todd,
I am in favor of this.
Jacob,
I'm just gonna abstain because Mr. Lawler's representing me later, so I don't know if I should vote on that.
Fair enough.
fair, yeah, okay. And Gary,
Yep, I approve it. Yep.
okay, and myself as well. So, okay, you have an approval from the Waterways Committee.
Hey, on behalf of my client, I thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you,
Thank you
sir.
very much, everyone, for your time.
All
I
right,
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Jose.
All right. Next up, we have mooring appeals. Deborah Peterson. Request for the mooring was denied back on August 20th, 2024. Ms. Peterson's deeded beach rights are not the same as the waterfront property ownership, which is the guide the harbor master has used for determination for the applicants outside of the town's designated mooring fields. A support letter for this matter was provided by Ron Semprini, addressed to myself. The paperwork was sent to the Waterways Committee members. Okay. Jay, will you speak to this one first? Give us some background.
Yes, sir. Jay Horn, Deputy Harbor Master, Mooring Officer. There are essentially two types of permits in the town of Barnstable. We have designated permits, which are established mooring fields that have a wait list, and then we have non-designated mooring permits. The regulations state in order to in order to apply for a non-designated mooring permit, you need to be a waterfront property owner. And I have the GIS map pulled up of Mrs. Peterson's property here on Huckins Neck Road, parcel 556, 569, excuse me. And as you know, the committee can clearly see, she's not a waterfront property owner. The issue we have with deeded rights, and I'm not sure what beach she has deeded rights to, but the Harbor Master Department got into trouble in the past because I just went through this at the Lake Waquakia Yacht Club. There's an association beach right next to the club. There's 44 individuals who have deeded beach rights to that association, but there's physically is not enough room for 44 moorings. So we get into a position where we permit one, we permit two. People start finding out about it. We get inundated with requests, and then we don't have the physical room to fit the moorings in there. And it's not fair and equitable to all at that point. The other issue that has come up, well, why don't you just make it a designated mooring field? That doesn't work because as an association, it's their property, it's private property. And in order to have a designated mooring field, it has to be open for the public, and you need things like parking and sometimes small vessel storage. So unfortunately, at this point, the Harbor Master Department does not permit moorings to individuals with deeded rights.
Okay, do we know where the deeded rights are to, and are there moorings in that area? And is it an open area, closed area? What's the status?
There's 3 established mooring fields in Lake Waquakia. You have the Lake Waquakia Yacht Club, you have Lake Drive, and you have a tiny little mooring field called Old Farm, which just has a few moorings in it. I do not know where this individual has deeded beach rights. But for her to get a mooring in Lake Waquaket, regardless of which location she chooses, she would have to put her name on one of the established wait lists, and those are currently all open at this point.
Okay. Do we have Deborah Peterson to speak to this now?
Let me try to unmute her. I think I can unmute her.
Hello?
There you are.
Yes, hi. I'm Deborah Peterson. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Actually, the area in question has another mooring there. JP and Janet Jokum have a mooring, so you know exactly where I'm talking about. So I do know, according to your description, that it is outside the designated mooring, but it is the beach that I have rights to is at the end of Pleasant Pines and Nye's Neck, that beach right there. I don't know if that helps you identify the area in question.
Pleasant Pines and Nye's Neck.
Yes.
Can you just direct me on the map here on where that is? I see Nye's Neck. I don't know where Pleasant Pines is. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Pleasant Pines is off of Huckins Neck Road. You go down Pleasant Pines, and
Can you see my screen and just direct me like where my cursor is?
here, let me see if I can. Without seeing the streets.
So if you zoom out a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, here's Pleasant Pines.
Okay, Pleasant Pines. If you go to the end of Pleasant Pines, at the end of Pleasant Pines, excuse me, where it intersects with Nye's Neck, there's a beach straight ahead. Through the woods right there.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with this area. There's a gentleman who owns this entire parcel right here.
Right, and
Mr. Thomas, yep.
yes, and I don't know what happened. Something happened to my screen there. Sorry. Yes, and so the reason that I'm asking for consideration is because, you know, I'm a full-time resident. I don't rent my property to anyone else. My family and I are always at that particular beach, and we've done so for many years. And the Jokums, they're not full-time residents, but they have a mooring there. And I just would like your consideration that, you know, we are getting older, my husband and I, and it is a little more difficult for us to enjoy, you know, bringing the boat down there. And so it would just be so much easier for us if we could, with your consideration, have a mooring there, just like the Jokums, because they're not beachfront property either. They have the same rights to that beach as I do. And they know me very well, and they know my family. They know we're respectful people. You know, no one drinks. We're very considerate of everyone else, and it's just a family time for us. We have to depend on my son to come down and help us, and so that's the reasons that I'm making this request.
Yeah, as far as any moorings that are currently there, they've been grandfathered in, unfortunately. They've been there for a long period of time because we haven't done deeded rights for years and years. So there are moorings in that general area. I think there's one or two, but unfortunately those have been grandfathered in. And the issue I have here is this is somebody's property. Somebody owns this entire parcel. And I'm not sure where the deeded beach rights are here.
Yeah, they're very extensive. They go from that corner that you're pointing all the way down to Shirley's Point, all the way, like a U, all the way to Shirley's Point.
Yeah.
We have it all the way, yeah.
So
And
you're
so-
telling me you're on this gentleman's deed? All these individuals are on the deed of this house,
Yes, we have,
this parcel rather?
yeah, we have deeded beach rights all the way from that corner that you're pointing out, all the way to Shirley's Point.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with any beach in there.
Oh, yeah, there's a little, it's a very nice little beach that we all maintain. The Jokums maintain it. You know, we go down there all the time with our family. It's a very small group of us that use that beach.
Yeah.
I think the beach is where like the road comes down and intersects in that north corner.
Yeah, there's a tiny little area in
That's,
here.
I think that's what they're referring to, and I'm familiar with it myself. I've gone out
Yeah.
there. I was out there this winter to use that to go ice fishing out there.
Uh-huh.
And there were a couple moorings in that cove as well.
Yeah.
I know that like in that picture right there, that one mooring that's sitting right there, I'm not sure what kind of boat you're talking about, but you know, if it looks something like that in Lake Waquaket, if you have deeded rights to walk to it or out to it,
Yeah, the boat is a 2000 Sea Ray. 18 foot.
Yeah, so again, at this time, Mrs. Peterson, the only way to acquire a mooring in Lake Waquaket is to join one of the established wait lists or be an actual waterfront property owner. We don't do deeded rights at this time.
Okay, but I guess, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful here, but I'm just wondering, in other words, if I've owned my property for 25 years and I'm a full-time resident and we're retired, we're older, for you to say to me, we don't do it at this time, it's extremely discouraging because there should be some type of something in place that addresses this issue, because I'm sure it's going to come up more than once. Especially when you consider there are moorings there. And I don't know, how they got their mooring if they don't live there full time, and I do. So it seems problematic to me that there isn't something in place to address this.
There is something in place, and it's called a wait list. What we have is a very limited resource with an extremely high demand. And the only way to be fair and equitable to everyone is to establish a wait list to get a mooring in this town. That's the system we have in place, unfortunately. I can't do anything about pre-existing moorings that have been grandfathered in. Some people have had moorings there before we had mooring permits. So, unfortunately, those are not unfortunately, but those are grandfathered in. And moving forward, if anyone else who has deeded rights to this area were to come to my office, they would be denied as well. So I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but the lists in Lake Waquaket move very quickly. I've been very aggressive there. I've turned over the Lake Waquaket list a couple times over in the last 4 or 5 years. So my advice would be to put your name on that, and in a couple of years, you'll most likely be getting a phone call. That yacht club has a very high turnover. This year, 7 or 8 people didn't renew. So it's not unrealistic for you to get one in your lifetime in this area. But at this time, again, we just don't do deeded beach rights.
Okay, Jacob, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. I was just curious, just because I'm actually new to this committee and I was looking for a little bit of insight, but you said earlier, Jay, that the wait lists for all the mooring fields in Lake Waquaket are open, like as if you put your name in right now, you would get a spot right now.
No, open means that they're not closed.
Okay.
Which means you don't have to join a lottery to be added to one. They're open in respect that you can physically put your name on them.
I gotcha. And then I was just curious, and obviously I don't think you have this off, you might not have this right off the top of your head, but if this lady is claiming that they have rights along this entire thing. I was two questions I just had. I mean, because I'm sympathetic to them. They only have a little boat that they want to walk out to in a pond that I think is losing popularity. And there's this little nook right here, and on mine and on my phone is a little different than what I see on here, but there's several moorings in here. Who own are these in this one property owner owns this whole beach? Does he own all those moorings, or are those her other neighbors or something?
I can't speak to who actually owns them. I'd have to look on my GIS and I could give you that information next meeting. But this is the trouble that we run into, right? We have deeded rights. It's a very, very small area of beach. And then what we do is we start putting moorings in people's
Mhm.
backyards and they start complaining.
No, I know, I
Yeah,
understand
that's
that.
exactly what would
No,
happen.
I'm not. I know. I'm just
You
actually
know,
trying to learn a little bit about it, and
yeah.
since it's brought up here, I just wanted to know more because I have a lot of questions. I'm very inquisitive, and I one more question that I wanted to have was that oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but oh yeah, how many people live in this community like that would have deeded rights to this? I wanted to ask the applicant. Do you know how many people have deeded rights?
I do know that I see I see approximately 3 or 4 families tops that frequent the beach. You know,
Do you
and
guys
I've
have like a thing that's all any sort of paper that would, I mean, I was just curious, like
in other
that
words,
says all your names on it for some sort of legal reasons or something that you could say this is how many properties or have this? Because maybe what if it was like two other people that didn't have those other moorings that are there? What if that was everyone else in that neighborhood grandfathered in and there was only in this particular instance, maybe there was only one or two other people that didn't have moorings and it wasn't because we're here to give access to people on the water, and this seems like a little cove. And
Yeah, it is a little cove, and it seems like the only 2 people that have moorings in that part of the cove are the Jokums. And they were denied 5 years ago by the committee. I don't know if it's the same committee, but they were denied 5 years ago. And then they, you know, asked for a hearing. And evidently, I guess the reason I'm being given right now is that they are saying they were grandfathered, even though, you know, they do not live here full time. And I do. So that's what my issue is. And I don't know the other boat that is moored there. I'm not familiar with who owns that, but to my knowledge, they live across the street, overlooking the bog. And so those are the only moorings in that little cove.
then
Typically,
one last question. I was curious with Jay was this a regulation or like a policy?
The deeded beach rights is a guideline currently. It's not a regulation. We have not deviated from it in my time in office, and it's because it's a slippery slope. You're correct. Maybe only 2 people have deeded rights to this area. And in theory, it would make sense. But that's a Pandora's box issue because once they get permitted, then I have the association next to the yacht club with 44 people
Okay.
knocking on my door saying, hey, you did it for them. Why aren't you doing it for us? We're just trying to establish some consistency here with the way that we permit these moorings and keep it fair and equitable to all.
I
and the
understand.
possibility does exist that that entire neighborhood has deeded beach access without
Yeah, no, I know, and that would
digging
be
into it.
yeah, yeah. I was just curious. What if it was like one other guy or something like
Yeah,
that?
and I empathize with that. I'd love to see a way to get Mr. and Mrs. Peterson the mooring that they want, but to Jay's point, access and just putting a mooring field in someone's backyard is problematic. I think the scope of this question goes a lot deeper that, even to the point the town council might have to step in and address what does that beach access entitle so that we have a little more clarity from a legal perspective. And how many parcel owners in that area have access to it before we can even, address it. And it's unfortunately for the Petersons, it's just a way bigger question than I think we have the ability to look at in one meeting.
Yeah. Mrs. Peterson, in order for this to, if this is a great area for a mooring field. I've looked at this. The first year I was in office and I was on the lake, I said, oh, wow, why don't we have a mooring field here? Because there aren't any waterfront homes in here. This is a parcel that doesn't have any residents on it.
Right.
So in order for me to legally establish a mooring field in here, this little sliver up here would have to be donated to the town. We'd have to have some type of public access so that people in the neighborhood could put their name on the wait list for that mooring field and they could access it without trespassing. Because that wait list has to be open to all. I can't just say, oh, you have to have deeded rights to be on the wait list. I can't do that. The state doesn't allow it. And, unfortunately, that would be the only way to make this happen. To make a mooring field there, we would need some type of public access for the people to actually get to their moorings.
Okay, so both boats that are there currently, both moorings, the only two that I'm aware of, I've never seen any others. Both of those are saying that their family, generation after generation, has always had a mooring there.
I can't speak to that. All I can tell you is that they weren't permitted by me, and they have not been permitted since we have made the guidelines about deeded beach rights. And I think Harbor Master Taylor would like to speak to this because he's the one who implemented these guidelines.
Good evening, Brian Taylor, Harbor Master. Actually, this exact parcel is why we implemented the guidelines. So this parcel itself historically did have a number of moorings out in front, and there's quite a few properties that are east of this parcel that do have deeded beach rights access. The parcel changed hands, and the individual that currently owns it did not want individuals accessing this location. The old chairman was Jack Mead, and he was actually the Registry of Deeds. This conversation took about, I want to say about a year, and before we came up with the guidelines for the deed of beach rights. Because of this, and Jay's correct, this would open Pandora's box. You have multiple parcels just on this lake with deeded beach rights access, with a number of parcels attached to it. Not only that, town-wide. So Jay's correct. Currently right now it is a guideline, but we're pretty strict with it because we can't pick and choose who we allow to have access to a certain location. And just in the circumstance of this parcel, this exact parcel is the reason why we initiated the guidelines, because the property changed hands and the individual that purchased it did not want people accessing through his property. Thank you.
Yep, Paul, this is Greg. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. It's an excellent point the Harbor Master brought up. I'm in alignment with the Harbor Master's office on this for the Pandora's box concept. The good news is Mrs. Peterson does have opportunity to access the lake with a mooring by virtue of these lists being open. So I think that's good, but I support the Harbor Master's department here.
Great, thank you. Anybody else wants to speak to this?
I just had one other thing I would like to add.
Sure.
As far as guidelines go, because you mentioned that this would be opening Pandora's box. I think that in all fairness to everyone involved, one of the aspects of keeping this under control would be a consideration that people would need to be full-time residents. I think that's only fair to people who don't rent their homes out, like me and my husband.
Unfortunately, the state dictates, and they have very specific laws against discrimination. When it comes to moorings, we can't discriminate between resident and non-resident. We can't change our fees for residents and non-residents, and that's passed down from the state to the town. The only people who have that luxury are private marinas. Marinas can charge different fees for resident, non-residents, but that is not allowed anywhere in the state of Massachusetts, and when it pertains to the mooring regulations.
Okay, thank you.
I would honestly like to know a little bit more about this situation and about how many people are deeded to that property. I understand that you couldn't make it a designated mooring field. But like I said before, what if there's only a couple people that are allowed to even do this, and then it's their little town, their little neighborhood mooring field, and maybe not all of them participate. So I'd like to make a motion to continue it to get more information on what these residents have access to, because I heard that Brian said that the owner didn't want them to access this property anymore, but if they have deeded rights, it's not really whether they want to or not. If it's what are the rights that these homeowners have, and how many of the people that have deeded rights to this? I'm just curious, how many is there? In you do that for this little section for this group of people, say it was 3 or 4 or 5. It doesn't really necessarily mean that that applies to everybody else all over the place that has 40 or 50. I think maybe I'm wrong, but I would consider that a separate issue. If this was a neighborhood mooring field for less than half a dozen people that may or may not participate, versus, maybe it's something that you just take, that's maybe something this committee as to get less people at the boat ramps, less people at the parking lots. If we do it smart, maybe this is something that cumulatively could improve our waterways.
I think this is, I think that I like your suggestion, Mr. Angelo. I think that's better suited for a workshop, because I do have other cases in the town where this is going on, and it's unfortunate. One of the examples I just pulled up is in Lake Wequaquet. This is called Jimmy's Beach. What's different about this parcel is it's actually listed as the Wequaquet Heights Association. If you were to go into this channel and enter this part of Lake Wequaquet, you would think this is a mooring field. I've got about 13 boats in there. It's bigger than the old farm field. It's bigger than it's kind of the same size as the Lake Drive mooring field, but it's not a designated mooring field. All of these boats are grandfathered in. They were permitted through deeded rights. And every year individuals are dropping off of this mooring field, and every year individuals are trying to get in. And it's unfortunate because, like you said, we are denying people access to the water, but we don't have, the implements and the tools in place right now that works for everybody. So I think this is more of a workshop issue. I can do some research on it in the winter. I can talk to Brian Taylor, who was the one who implemented all this, and maybe we could revisit it. But as of right now, we're sticking to our guns, and we're doing what's kind of fair and equitable for everybody.
Well said. Thanks, Jay.
Okay, so at this point, Mrs. Peterson, this committee would not be in favor of going against the harbor master's recommendation not to allow the new moorings in non-designated areas for a situation like yourself. One of the remedies, that was suggested, I don't know who owns this big long parcel there, where some of the rights are in front. Now, if a portion of that was carved out and it was either purchased or donated to the town for a public access, then that becomes a different matter. But as of right now, with it being a deeded rights from an association, or in your case, on your particular deed, and again, we don't know how many folks have that. You're welcome to come back at any point and just to supply more information to the Harbor Masters Department if you find out that the other folks that you referenced, how they got theirs. Uh, would certainly like to accommodate you, but at this point, we cannot, the way everything is structured.
Okay,
Okay, thank you for your time.
thank you.
What about the getting on the list? How do we
Oh,
get on
yes,
the list?
I just have a question. How do we get on the waiting list? Last time, when we applied, we were just denied. I mean, there wasn't an option for any lists that I'm aware of.
Call the office tomorrow, ask for myself or Polly. You can get the forms on the town website and you can apply for all three of the mooring fields in Lake Wequaquet.
Okay, so you have to call them out in order to get on the waiting list. Excuse me.
You need to fill out an application and pick each field that you want to join. And there's a fee associated with it. And then you must renew that every year annually in order to keep your name on the list.
Okay, I see.
How much is the fee?
It's $25 to start and it's $15 after that annually.
Whether you get on or
Yes,
not?
yeah, to be on the waiting list.
That's
All
right. Yeah, yeah. And
Okay,
again, you're very fortunate because you're looking at a few years, 5, maybe 6, a tops, versus Lewis Bay, Hyannisport, 15, 20 years. So you're in a good area. You just got to get your name on the list.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have John Healy Jr. Mr. Healy is looking to transfer the ownership of his father's mooring in the Centerville River, mooring number CR 14A was revoked due to the town of Barnstable mooring regulations. Mr. Healy's father, John J. Healy, passed away in March of 2022. Okay, Jay, a little background on this one.
Yes, sir. Jay Warren, Warrant Officer, Town of Barnstable. This is kind of a sticky situation here. Mr. Healy, John, known as Jack Healy, passed away in March 2022. His son, at that point, continued to renew the mooring in his name because they share the same name. He's a junior, I believe. And this went on for a couple of years, renewing his father's mooring, even though he was deceased. In 2024, he missed the deadline for this mooring and went in front of the Waterways Committee to have it appealed. That appeal was granted. We gave him permission to reinstate the mooring in 2024. And I'm just confused as to why he didn't mention that his father was deceased and why he didn't try to transfer this mooring earlier. There was an issue this year with the renewal, and I did permit it. At that time, I did not know that his father was deceased. Since then, once I learned about his father passing away, I revoked the permit. I made this property vacant. And my suggestion to him was to appear in front of the Waterways and seek their advice on what the Harbor Master Department should do with this mooring.
Okay, Mr. Healy, go ahead.
Yeah, so inheriting or managing my father's property. I don't know if you guys can all hear me. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Completely unaware of the fact that in my father's passing that I had to renew under my own name. I was really just kind of carrying on under in the name of the estate, which is what the property has been left in.
Okay, you're aware that your father's mooring could be passed to you, a family member, a direct family member, but you just can't assume it and just keep rolling as if you were renewing it for your father. You understand that?
Yeah, I do now. And I think part of this whole process has really kind of been a learning experience with his property as well as with the boat.
Okay, Jay, how long did Mr. Healy have that mooring?
As far as my records show, I found he was permitted all the way back to 2014. It may be earlier, but I would have to access a different database for that. But an initial check shows that he's at least been permitted since 2014.
Okay, is it one of the floating moorings, floating the floats, or is it a free mooring?
It is, sir. It's one of the moorings in the Centerville River. The boats are attached to floating piers there.
Okay. And so you understand, Mr. Healy, that those are quite a premium for those. They're well sought after. How big is your wait list there, Jay?
It's not out of control. I'm sorry I didn't look that information up first, but if you give me a minute, I can get back to you with that.
No, roughly, if you have an idea.
I'd say between 30 and 40 people off the top of my head.
Okay. And it was missed once, the renewal?
That's correct. In 2024, he failed to renew it in time.
Yeah, I believe if I remember correctly, in 22, he and I were able to. He did it. We did it together before he passed, and then I missed that first one again because the email forwarding or the mail forwarding wasn't working, and I was unaware of that policy about having to transfer.
Okay. Any other members with some thoughts on this one?
I mean, personally, I'm in favor of it. Someone, certainly a father's had a mooring for 14, 15 years, 11, 12, whatever it is. And the passing and the paperwork, it's daunting, it's intimidating. Like most towns in Massachusetts and arguably New England, that moorings are a premium, and I don't necessarily agree with the action, but you don't want to lose it. In some cases, you do whatever it takes to maintain it. And I certainly empathize with this gentleman, and if it's still available, would be in favor of letting him transfer that mooring to him and his family for continued use.
Okay, thanks, Todd.
Mr. Chairman, to answer your question, I was kind of right on. There's 36 people currently on that wait list.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm in favor of it. I mean, I think that it seems to be a precedent that everyone gets one chance with these kind of things at this, committee. So I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, this is Gary. I agree with Todd's review of it.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to add one thing, Mr. Chairman, and we can discuss this in depth tomorrow, Mr. Healy. You're going to have to provide the necessary paperwork to make an official mooring transfer from your father to yourself, okay?
Yes, I believe when my daughter went in there, I was in the hospital, and I meant to come pick it up. Long story with a tick bite, but I have the list of things that are needed, so I'm efforting all those things.
Okay, yep. So give us a call and we'll get you back in good status. There is going to be a reinstatement fee, transfer fee, but it looks like the committee is in approval of this appeal.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And
Mr.
just to
Healy,
add, yes.
I would just say that you've missed a deadline already once, and now you've had this complication. I would not want to be in front of this committee again for an irregularity on the mooring renewal. So you need to stay right on top of it, please.
I appreciate that. And again, I appreciate your patience and kind of learning as I go with this.
Okay, good luck to you, sir.
Thanks so much.
Yep, thank you. Okay, next up, we have all business. Where we will have to say goodbye to Jacob for
Yeah, what do I go to a breakout room or do you want me to just like leave and then?
why
You're
don't
gonna
you
have to
leave and
leave,
then
Jacob. You're gonna have to leave, and then Polly can invite you back in.
Okay, last time it was a breakout room, but if you want me to do that, I can too.
We're in
just-
a breakout room now, so you just
All
have to,
right,
you have to
so-
leave the meeting, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So it's the Jacob Angelo Fishware renewal, different per applicant's request from May 2025 meeting. So go ahead, Jay.
I believe Brian Taylor has joined us to discuss his concerns with this application.
Good evening, Brian Taylor, Harbor Master. So, Mr. Angelo submitted two applications for the fish weirs. Both of them are the same applications that were permitted through Town Council and supported by the Waterways Committee for a period of 1 year. One is located off Weano, and the other one is in Hyannisport. To the best of my knowledge, Mr. Angelo set up one fish weir, which was out in front of Weano. Not the other one, although he was permitted for it on location. I do have a few concerns that I want to bring to the committee's attention, mostly around the navigation and around Labor Day. I mean, from what we've seen since really COVID, is the increase in traffic, especially near the shoulder seasons. Um, the spring is not as busy as the fall. We've really seen an increase in traffic in the fall. I'm in a sticky spot here because I really want to support the commercial fishing industry, but I also have to represent recreational boating traffic and first and foremost, public safety. I am a bit concerned with the location of the Weano application in the time period, due to the amount of traffic. But I'd like to hear the committee's thoughts. I know a lot of you have avid boaters in the community, and you saw it there last year, so I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Okay, thank you. I did receive there are numerous letters on that the Harbor Masters Department has received in support of this. I did receive a letter from Melissa Sanderson, the Chief Operating Officer for the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance, in support of this. But I do share the harbor master's concern too, particularly about the Weano one. The Hyannis fish weir is tucked in a little bit more into the rocky area of Hyannisport, which is less traveled by, and thankfully it is. But the Weano one has always been a concern of mine way back. So I I'm not really I know we had the former company from Down Cape that had those permits in that place, and we renewed uh, Mr. Angelo's permit for that area for 1 year. And I know he's in negotiations, I believe, purchasing some of that gear from them. So I know it's a hard decision for him, does he go forward with this or not? But it's a big ask as far as getting on that big piece of water and obstructing it to the general public, albeit that there have been fish weirs out there for years and decades. So it's a balancing act, and that's why I'm not in support of this for a long-term ask. I believe they were looking for 5 years, and I would not be supportive of a 5-year ask on this, but would like to see maybe another year possibly, and keep monitoring this and see where we go with it. Um, any other members with thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think when we discussed this originally, we first and foremost discussed Mr. Angelo's investment in the equipment and how considerable it was and how it was a financial commitment on his behalf. And I think we talked about it, but we also addressed the issue that a 5-year term with safety concerns and hazardous navigation is real. And the fall is busy. It's busy for fishermen. It's busy for recreational boaters. I'm sure it's busy for fishermen. I'd love to see him have both those weirs. I'm a little concerned why he's applying for the Hyannis one when he didn't set it up, but I guess maybe that's a separate conversation and something that we should look into. But how has the Harbor Master's office had an opportunity to review how he's handled some of the beacons that he discussed placing up and the lights, and has he conformed with that as
Yes,
we outlined in the first meeting?
that's correct. So Jacob's been responsive. He did everything we asked, and for the fishware off of Wiano, if that's your question. Historically,
Yes.
Nantucket fishwares would run in the spring. I don't have it in front of me right now, but mostly in April, in the beginning of May. And there were some years where they didn't set up both fish weirs. Sometimes they set up Hyannisport, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they set up Wiano, so on, so forth. But the boating traffic in the spring is not as busy in the fall, from what we've
Sure.
seen more recently. I was really hoping that this application was going to be the springtime, because Nantucket Fishwares, although they were permitted in the spring, did not fish in this location last spring. So I thought, they were slowly weeding themselves out, and Jacob was going to come in. I want to support the industry. I'm really just concerned at this time with the Wiano location. In obviously, myself and Waterways were advising against this. This is probably going to go to town council at some point. They're going to ask for my comments. They're going to ask for Waterways comments. They want to know what we think about it. Jay and I discussed possibly increasing some of the beacons to the front and the back of the fish weir. Again, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't stress the
Sure.
concern. In fact, the day I went out to mark the entrance to the fish weir in the exit, as I call it, or the south and north side of it, a boat literally ran right through the middle of it. And I marked it on the chart because we have calls at night, and you can't see the fish weir really at night, even with the light, with all the other lights that are going on in and around Nantucket Sound, as well as on the shore side. So literally a boat ran right through it. And I am just, I wouldn't be doing my
Yeah.
job if I didn't express how I felt about it. And again, I'm in a tough situation because I want to support commercial fishing. I'm going to continue to support commercial fishing. I was really hoping this was going to be the spring application, but I'm just trying to voice my opinion on it. That's all.
So is there any sort of workaround that we can talk through so that we support the commercial fishing application, but we also keep recreational boaters in mind? Is there a relocation? Is there any?
May I jump
What's
in
that?
here? 'Cause normally,
Yeah.
you give a presentation, and I know it jumped right into the board, but I'm on behalf of Jake Angelo, David Lawler.
No, go ahead.
And I'm not, we were here last year and it went on and on. I'm not going to reiterate a lot of those things, but one of the, you mentioned Melissa Anderson, but there's also about another 8 or 9 letters in support of this that have been out there from the Fishermen's Alliance, from George Maynard, from NOAA, from the Ernie L., the person who ran them before, a captain of Highline, Chatham Harvesters Cooperative, and then another half dozen or so individuals. The fishware, it's not decades, it's well over a century in these particular locations, I'm told, and if not, and probably centuries, with the Wampanoag utilizing this fishing system. And the spring permit allows a weir to be up today, up until June 30th. I was out on the water last Saturday. There's no way that September is as busy it is in late June. Now, granted, in May, it's less. I'm not going to argue that point. So the fish weir, spring fish weir allows the fish weir to be up until July 1st. So that would be including this weekend. So with respect to that argument, but also the fishery has changed quite a bit. Part of that is due to climate change. I mean, they were catching bonita off of the vineyard last weekend. I mean, we never saw that in June. And also recently, I guess that Mass Fisheries is putting some restriction even on albacore, 4 or 5 a catch. However, for someone like Jake, they've actually allowed that if anything caught in a fish weir would not be subject to that requirement. So there's a tremendous amount of desire to keep this level of fishing going, and that's still involved. The investments there in order to run this for 5 years to go. We went through this before, and then we went before the town council, and they brought it, to the I think it was the Tuesday after Labor Day. It could open and then run into the fall. This fishing industry, Cape Cod has. We're called Cape Cod. It's about fishing. That's our heritage. That's what we have. We have boaters, and there's always a conflict between boaters and commercial fishing. Commercial fishing is what, look at the seafood restaurants, the whole 9 yards of what we are. This is our heritage. Now, Jake installed it last year in Weano in the area that you're more concerned about, but I mean, I heard about this boat right here, but I mean, I have no other knowledge of any incidents going on. It's well marked. It's been in existence both fall and in spring for it was a long time, and the mere possibility that a boat might hit, people have an obligation to drive their boats in a safe and reasonable manner, to know where they are. I mean, recently they're talking now, I mean, they're going to blow up Collier's Ledge because people can't, see a buoy or Collier's Ledge. I mean, where do you draw the line? And with respect to this application, it is very reasonable to have a fish weir up. People, if you buy a boat, you're supposed to know where you are. You're supposed to have local knowledge, and you're supposed to, drive in a reasonable manner at a reasonable speed. And if you're out at night, you need to know where you are. With all the technological advances of GPS and radar and the whole 9 yards, people should be able to avoid this. But you cannot account for every instance where someone's going to screw up. You can't. I mean, you could create laws that everybody has to drive at 5 miles an hour. I mean, people are going to get in accidents. Things happen. However, this is an area that's been there. It's well marked. It's going to be marked. If you need some more beacons on it or some other things to work with the harbor master, Mr. Angelo is willing to do that. This absolutely is an important part of Cape Cod. It's an important part of our heritage. It's being encouraged by all these, these institutions out there and individuals. At some point, people have to take personal responsibility for driving a boat and understand where they are. This is offshore. It's not in the harbor. And we're talking about after Labor Day. And the town council looked at it. And in order for someone to have the investment and to take the proper steps necessary to protect themselves, that should happen. Now, also, I want to point out that if there is an incident, he can always come back before the board. I mean, the harbor master has that right. So I suggest that it be approved as applied for. Thank you.
Okay, and the application is for 5 years?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other comments from board members? And do we still have the harbor master with us?
Yes, sir.
Would there be anything else that you would need to look into or have us consider before we make a decision on this tonight?
Well, all I can say is, to the best of my knowledge, the application that's was in front of you last year and the one that's in front of you this year is for the spring season. Excuse me, the fall. The application that we saw historically was only in the spring. Um, I don't have the application in front of me at this time. I actually came from a training before I jumped on for the original fish weir permit, which was from Nantucket Fish Weirs. I don't know the end date, but I know that we worked with Nantucket Fish Weirs to make sure that that fish weir itself was removed, um, you know, right around the middle of May. Uh, Really, if you're looking for more information, I can certainly give it to you. I could show you some of the older applications. Like I said, I was hoping that's when it was going to be. Um, as far as like the boating accidents go, the state has taken some steps for that. That's why they're initiating having a boating license, because there has been so many issues. Are you ever going to stop all of them? No. Also don't want to invite them, and I just know from the number of calls that we receive in the summer and early fall. I'm a bit concerned with the Wiano location. Could there be steps that we could take to help mitigate that and still have the fish weir out there and give it a try? Sure. That would probably be some north and south side buoys, some lighted buoys, more notice to local mariners, other than just the notice to mariners that goes out. There definitely could be. But if there's any other information that you request, I could get back to you on that.
I want to make one point clear. I did not see the old fishware application. I was told that it ran through June 30th. So I want to make that clear. I don't want to make a misrepresentation. I believe that to be the case, but I was told that the app, and I'm a boater and I go in April, and you're right. Usually the fish weirs are out not in the middle of May. Usually they're out like by the 1st of June usually, but I think the application allows, that's my memory from just boating there for 50 years. And I always go in early. I go in April, and I'm in May, and they're all, they're pretty much up all of May. That's my memory just from being out there.
If there's a chance, I'd like to make a couple clarifying comments.
Yep, and Paul, this is Greg. I'd like to
Yep.
say
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, real quick. I agree with the harbor master relative to September being very busy, and I know it by firsthand. And so historically, and I'm remembering back to our discussion on this last fall, asking the applicant if he'd consider, sometime after Labor Day, and that's the, I don't know what the fisheries efficiency is and all that, but there's no doubt that that September is very, very busy, specifically in that area. So I understand Mr. Lawler's comments, notwithstanding the harbor master's concern for a lot of traffic in there at that time.
I mean, Mr. Regan, I think we are looking for after Labor Day, the Tuesday after Labor Day.
Right. But September in generally is still very, very busy.
Again, I mean, obviously it's less busy than the summer, but that's I mean, you have to fish when the fish are there, and with the changing, black bass are open in September, the albacore run in August and into September. I mean, you can't. Yeah, I mean, we could put them out there in January, but there are no fish out there. I mean, I'm not being a wise ass either. I'm sorry. I'm just saying that. I guess I am. Sorry, Greg.
That's okay.
What I'm getting at is, sorry. And that's why we're looking after Labor Day is to reach some type of a compromise that, I mean, the schools are back in session. Schools now are actually 90% of them are in session before Labor Day in late August. All the sports, all the people that come down in the summertime that their children are in sports, they're not down on weekends in the fall because of that. There is, clearly there's, still activity I mean, there's people out there fishing. I mean, there's people out there in that area trying to catch albacore. The same thing that the nets are going to be going. But I mean, those individuals, are generally pretty responsible boaters that understand what's going on. And to the harbor master's point, there are, the new educational requirements and some of the things that he indicated, if we have to put a couple of new buoys on, I mean, light buoys on, certainly that would be something that we would be agreeable to. And any other reasonable notice requirements that were asked of us, will cooperate with the Waterways Committee or through the town council, or the harbor master, whomever you would request us to do that, to make sure this is safe as reasonably possible. Can you make anything in this world 100% safe? No, I'm a lawyer. You can't. And it's just, but I think that this is a reasonable approach to someone who's committed to keeping this alive. If this dies here and this equipment's gone and doesn't happen, it may never come back to the Cape. And it's such a, I mean, that would be a travesty. I mean, this is something that's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, if not thousands. I don't know when the Native Americans first started weir fishing, but a long, long time ago, long before the Pilgrims came here. So, it's part of our heritage, and I think it's worthy of a 5-year run to make sure that it works, and he can do it financially.
Okay, Rachel, then Betty.
Okay. Hi. A couple of things. I know Brian was mentioning that someone had driven through the weir, and I am familiar with that situation. It was while everything was being set up, so it wasn't fully set. There weren't nets. I don't even think the lighting had gone up yet. It's possible that Connor Rogan was also there. He might be able to speak to that. But it was during install, is my understanding, because I remember Jake talking about it at the time. So once the weir is fully set and the net's there and the lights are on, I do believe that people would not try to navigate through it. And then my other comment is just about the history of weirs and the weir fishing industry. There's always been concerns about safety. There have been historical instances of accidents that have happened, and ultimately the town has always moved forward with continuing to permit these weir sites, and those lease terms have been for 5 years. I'm not familiar with any historically that have only been permitted for a 1-year span. The same considerations have always been taken. And also these weirs, and I think Ernie might have a little more insight to this as well, but they did exist in the fall. It's just in the past, 5 to 10 years, someone was managing the spring fishery, but these did historically exist in the fall as well. So just know that there's a lot of precedent here, that this fishery kind of predates some of these other concerns. And obviously no one here is hoping for any sort of tragedy and would want to mitigate any potential hazard on the water. But we do have to weigh the risks for everyone involved and the opportunities for everyone involved. And for that reason, I think it's also worth considering the safety of the fishermen. A fishery that exists closer to shore, like a weir fishery does, is significantly safer for the people who maintain that weir. And that can be the fishermen and a myriad of helpers. So as we weigh all the concerns, just know that there's a lot to be looked at. And I think precedent speaks for itself here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Betty.
Thank you. I just wasn't sure if you allowed public comment. Do you allow
Yes,
public comment?
Sure.
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm a town councilor, precinct 3, which, the Hyannisport location is in my precinct. And I really appreciate all the comments. I really like the comments that were just made by Rachel and Attorney Lawler. And I would really like to see this come forward to the town council with a 5-year ask. I think it makes sense for all of the reasons. I won't duplicate what's been said because I think it's been said beautifully. I know Mr. Angelo had quite a difficulty getting the hickory poles. And if he had a 5-year chance, he could purchase, I think, some new poles. He begged, borrowed, and, found these things and had great trouble, kind of getting stuff together and going with it. But if he knew he had 5 years, he could really devote the time, the energy, his resources to it. And again, just great comments. I won't duplicate them, but a 5-year ask I think is extremely reasonable, and I'd really like to see that come forward. So thank you for the time to comment.
Thank you. Do we have the harbor master still with us?
Can I make a public comment?
Just a minute, sir.
Yeah.
Harbor Master Horn, are you still with us?
I'm here as well, sir.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. The historic permits for the Nantucket Fishing Company, how far back do those go on your records?
Ooh, I'd have to dig them up. I mean, I'm pretty sure they go far back, way before me. I would say 20 years. I'd have to actually dig them up and or check with retired Harbor Master Horn on that.
Okay, thanks. My suggestion would be maybe we have a look at those previous permits and and some of the stipulations on those. I do remember, just as a personal comment, I do remember the weirs out there in the spring. I ran the police boats for many years out there, and the weirs were always out before, in and around Memorial Day, I would say. And I said this once before, I did have an experience where I got called out at nighttime for a boat that hit one of the weirs, and we were back out there in the morning with divers retrieving the body of someone that hit the weir, and a group of people on a boat, and one went overboard, and we ended up retrieving him, and that was a difficult situation. So when we say that they're not without risk, I can certainly tell you firsthand what that is like to retrieve somebody, from the water like that. So that's why I approach this with of the concern of the utmost concern of safety. I think Attorney Lawler has said, historically, this has gone back hundreds and hundreds of years, and I understand that. The comment about inland, close in fishery for safety of people. I have a son that works on the water year round. I totally get that too. I just want to make a recommendation that we bring this forward with the utmost of consideration for everybody involved, and try to make the best recommendation as we can as the Waterways Committee. That being said, I would like the harbor master, if he could, to research all of those previous applications and bring those forward to our next meeting, if they would, if Attorney Lawler would like, we could suspend this on this meeting here, get that little bit more information and recommendations as far as any other lighting that we would want to see on this. I can tell you firsthand that incident that I described where the young man died, there was basically a flashlight with a little yellow glow on top, and that was all that was required. And everybody knows how dark it gets on the water, and that certainly was not. It was visible when you were basically within the weir, but approaching in a boat, it was not readily visible. So,
And I'm obviously very sympathetic to that. I was unaware of that, but I mean, without, it's difficult to follow that. But without being, unsympathetic, again, as a lawyer, there's everything that has risk and, a cost benefit analysis. And obviously you're dealing with lives here, but if we look at, like I said before, if you wanted to reduce life on Cape Cod, you'd put a red light on virtually every intersection on Route 28, but then it would take you 2.5 hours to get from Hyannis to Falmouth. And sadly, people are killed every year on that stretch. I know certain roads that after I know, for instance, it took years and years and multiple accidents on Lumbert Mill to put it up. I mean, and this incident is the one instance, and obviously one life is precious. But over probably I don't know when that was, if that was in the 80s, 90s, or early 2000s. I mean, I'm sure if you were there, it stuck with you as if it was yesterday. But in that analysis of what fisheries, the safety of the fishermen, and certainly upgrading the safety of this system with much better lighting than the flashlight, and then working with the other issues. But can you make it 100% safe? No, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna insult your intelligence. Of course you cannot. But you can take a lot of steps to make it safer. But at the same time, you're feeding people natural food products. You're employing people. You're providing safety to the fishermen, which was a great point that Rachel pointed out. And it's a hard thing to follow that, because obviously that's a terrible, terrible thing. But I do suggest that even with that example, having this tremendous resource available, as long as we do everything we can to increase the safety and not eliminate, but lessen the risk, and take those lessons into heart. That I know with LED lighting and the battery powers that's here today, the I mean, on my boat now, it's legally Coast Guard passed. You have an LED light that will legally replace a flare. It's just I think that those can be put in place to make this a lot safer, and make it appropriate for for approval. And so, I mean, he's trying to get going and get moving. I mean, I'm not going to object to a continuance, but I would prefer if they voted on it tonight.
Okay, thank
Rachel
you.
was asking to speak again.
You had one gentleman would like to speak. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Connor Rogan. I know it says Sydney Crook on my screen, but I worked with Jake on the weir this fall, and I just wanted to kind of speak to the scope of the project as for getting approved for a 5-year term versus a 1-year term. For the Hyannis weir, we got the blueprint pretty much. There's like a specific way it's set up from the owner and operator of Nantucket Fish Weirs. And I think we were at 80, 30 to 40-foot hickory poles that needed to be installed to hang the nets. So something like that, where if you got approved for 1 year, it wouldn't be financially responsible to go out and try and source that just for a 1-year thing. That's where we ran into issues. We got the whole frame of everything set up, and some of these poles just couldn't support the actual weight of the net. So everything would need to be replaced for next year. And like we're already in July. So sourcing that in the next 2 months would even be a pretty big, a big feat. So I just wanted to put that into perspective, even to do both weirs. I think the Hyannis weir is the blueprint's a little bit smaller for it, but you're still talking about, 120 plus essentially small trees that would need to be sourced just to get the gear up and working. And Mr. Lawler made a great point about the LEDs. Like as a someone who is hands-on with it, we got a lot of used gear from Ernie, who's here today, and Kurt, who's the Nantucket Fish Weir owner operator. And I think with LEDs today, like the lighting, there could be that's like the easiest way to make the whole thing safer. Is I think you could really light it up, relatively, efficiently with LEDs compared to like what we were using. it's just, pretty much just outdated technology at this point. LEDs would be a world of difference. That, in junction with like public outreach, finding a way to let the public know that it's there. I don't know anybody who boats and really looks at the like Coast Guard, like local notice to mariners. That's like nobody's out there reading that. But I think the town, we could find a way to at least alert the public to it. I don't want to see this whole fishery die out just over fears of safety when I think steps could be taken to really to make it as prominent in the public eye as possible.
Okay, thank you. I know one of our members on the committee needs um, to sign off for another reason, but any other committee members with thoughts on this? And I'd entertain a motion after hearing thoughts.
I'm in favor. Frankly, I don't care if it's a 10-year term. The minute a safety issue arises, it needs to come back in and be revisited. So the term is, and if Mr. Angelo needs 5 years to make his investment, that's fine. I would strongly encourage him to do everything in his power outside of the scope of this committee to make sure that it's 100% to the best of his ability, a safe entity, because once we have a safety issue, that's where this board comes into play, or this committee comes into play. So I'm in favor of it. I like the idea of it. I want to continue it. I appreciate the support, but as the chairman has expressed, there is a safety concern that's bigger than all of us. And if that safety comes into question, then whether it's a 5-year term or a 10-year term, it's absolutely irrelevant. So if Mr. Angelo is comfortable with that, I can only speak for me personally, I'm in favor of it. But once the safety becomes in question, and whether boaters are responsible or they're not responsible, to look out for the well-being of everybody that's water within our Mr. Angelo is going to share that issue with us.
Okay.
Paul, this is Greg.
Yes.
So if there was an issue, just say a safety issue relative to the harbor master's concerns, and we did approve the 5-year, what are the what's the process to readdress it at the time? Is there one?
I am not sure if there is. Harbor Master.
I could speak to that if it would allow me. I operated fish weirs for 50, 60 years. The applications they allow to be revoked at any time on the application. It states that they can be revoked. So there's no issue with that you don't have a recourse on that part of it. Also on the excuse me, on the history of the weirs, I know back when Mark Simonich first started fishing up there, which was in the 80s, early 80s. So there is a history that goes back to the early 80s. And I think you'll find on the applications that they went from the spring. Most all of our applications went from March to October, and that we could operate them anytime in between that. I know Kurt had shortened it up. He had another fishery that he was in. He's a lobster fisherman, so he always wanted to be out early. so he shortened his application up. But we had them that we used to leave traps in up into October before. But anyway, I'll stop right there. I hope you support this. I'd love to see this fishery continue. Thank you.
Mr. Eldridge, thank you for that info. What authority would who would have authority to revoke it in such a scenario that you described?
I believe that the town does, and I know it states on because they go the applications go to the state to be approved by a variety of entities up there. The Division of Marine Fisheries, they probably hold the most water up there. So it does say that they can be revoked.
So to your knowledge, would the harbor master and maybe it's not fair to ask you, but you have great experience in this regard, and I respect it. Do you think that the harbor master would have authority to revoke?
I would. I'm not really sure. I would say that probably he could, either talk to town council or contact the state and the Division of Marine Fisheries. I'm sure with his prompt, if there was a great safety issue, that it could be resolved. And I also want to say that, I think it's a great idea to add lights to it. We were required, and they were they were registered with the Coast Guard as a private aids to navigation. And at the time, we just put one on each end of the weir. We did have a couple of them that we put an extra light in the middle, but that has to be registered with the Coast Guard and approved by the Coast Guard.
Greg, I think I can answer your question. I'm not positive, but I have a very strong belief that since this is approved by the town council, I think the harbor master would, well, first of all, the harbor master has police powers. I think under the police powers, he could probably order a temporary halt, but then he would have to bring it before the town council, who would then have the power to revoke it.
Thank you.
Harbor Master Taylor, you still with us?
Yes, sir.
Would that be something you can research and give us a definitive on this application if it needs to be revoked for cause, whether it be a safety or negligence or something like that? Would you be able to get that answer to us before we vote?
Yes, I would. I can inquire with legal.
Okay, personally, I'd much rather have a strong understanding as to who could revoke it. And I thank Mr. Eldridge for letting us know that his experience for 50 plus years doing this, he at any time could have it revoked. But I want to know under what circumstances and by whom. So
I've got a question or a comment regarding the safety issues. If Brian could work with the applicant about a detailed safety plan regarding what kinds of aids to navigation, that would make the harbor master comfortable with going forward on this.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. I agree with that. I want to, as Attorney Lawler said, you just can't prevent everybody from having an accident all the time. And I totally agree with them. You just can't, prevent everybody from themselves. But in a case like this, again, citing my past experience, I just want to make sure if we go ahead with this, that we have done everything that we, as a Waterways Committee, can to make this the most safe and positive adventure, for the fishermen. I totally get that, and I agree with that too. But it is again historical, and I'd like to see that continue as safe as we can make it. So I would suggest that we push it off one more month to our next meeting, have the harbor master come back with a definitive as to who can revoke this for what cause, number one. Number two, come up with his recommendations on lighting on this. As I told you before, my experience, it was woefully lit inadequately. And it was registered with the Coast Guard, as Mr. Eldridge has said, that where that this boat hit was registered, that light was registered with the Coast Guard. But, and then finally, I'd like to just look at those previous permits and locations and then make a decision.
The dates also, the timeline that they were allowed to haul them out.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, as he said, Mr. Skopanich, his permit was longer than he was there for. Like Attorney Lawler says, you fish when the fish are there. There's no sense in fishing when the fish aren't there. So I'm sure these guys have it dialed in, on that spring run. And that changes. That I'm sure that's going to change from time to time and year to year. So I'm sure they try to cover all of their bases as far as predicting is it going to be an early season. So I would I'd like to continue it to next month for those reasons. Attorney Lawler, you okay with that?
I mean, I struggle with it in that my client, if he wants to be up and running by the fall, now we're into July, that's going to seriously impact his ability to do that for this year. But then which would necessitate the 5-year, because I'd be coming back again next year. But I understand the reasons why you're looking for it. I'm not going to object, but I want to be clear that if we do that, then it might result in us not being ready for the fall, even though we have a 5-year, because all of a sudden you're in the middle of July, and for him it would be impossible. It's going to be tight now as it is. So reluctantly, I would agree.
Okay. Any other members have any feelings as far as moving it out to our next meeting? And hearing none, then that's what we will do. We'll move that to continuous to our next meeting in June.
July, right?
July, I'm sorry. Yes.
What's that? I just want to look at my calendar. When is that, Mr. Emerson?
July 22nd, sir.
Okay. I have an arbitration that day, but I'll be done. Won't be at 7:00. So, agreed. Well, thank you. I'd like to point out, because people do watch these things, I know that this is not easy, and I also know you guys are all volunteers. Obviously, harbor masters not, but they're just doing their job. But I do want to thank you on behalf of everybody.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Not easy work.
Thank you. Next, we have notification up by the Red Lily Pond Project Association to, I'm sorry, before that, we have public comment to project number 0125-015, request to retain the HH buoy. We discussed this before. I did send a letter on email on behalf of the Waterways Committee to the Coast Guard, requesting that both the HH and the BA buoy be retained for all of the reasons we had discussed at our last meeting. Since then, I have also during that time frame spoke with Murray Scudder from Highline Cruises and some other folks who are prominent around the water who also have submitted letters to the Coast Guard requesting those aids to remain in the town of Barnstable. Okay. Then we have the notification by the Red Lily Pond
Paul,
Association.
Paul, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that we also provided comments to the Coast Guard, asking them to keep the BH and HH buoy on location.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry, I admitted the Harbor Master Department, yes. Um, So the short of it is I have not found one agency, entity, or person that thinks getting rid of the BA or the HH buoy is a good thing. So hopefully they hear us loud and clear that we need to retain these. Next, we have that Red Lily Pond project to manually cut and clear the so macrophytes from, I thought it was all the pond lilies from Red Lily Pond in Lake Elizabeth and Centerville on July 17th, 18th, and 19th. Delay if weather conditions are adverse. That basically is a non-navigation area for us. So it's just kind of a courtesy notification. We do mention all the letters that we had in support of the fish weir. And they are on file with us. And then we have the Harbor Master report.
Yes, sir. Jay Horn, Deputy Harbor Master. It's been a long meeting. I'm not going to hold you guys up any longer. We are approaching 4th of July. Just want to let the public know we will have increased patrols. The 4th lands on a Thursday this year, so we're going to be out there ahead of time. We've already seen an increase in boat traffic, and we're going to be out there all weekend following the 4th. So we're excited for that. There is the 4th of July boat parade. That's going to be taking place in Hyannis Harbor. If you plan on attending that, please pre-register your vessel. We're asking everyone to pre-register for that event so that we know how many vessels will be participating in that parade. And then real quick, I'll get you guys out of here. A few months ago, I shared some of the waitlist data that I had with the committee and the issue that I was running into with people passing. Came across this article from the Jamestown Press, from the Harbor Commission, and it turns out that they're having the same exact issue. I did highlight one paragraph, and he said, after speaking with harbor masters and neighboring waterfront municipalities, said the waitlist policy in Jamestown is unique. Every other city or town either eliminates names from the list or drops them to the bottom if they decline an available mooring. So I'm glad to hear that this is an issue in other towns and that people are dealing with it. I already told the committee what our plan is. We're going to ask people nicely not to renew next year, and then move forward with action if needed. But I was excited to read this article and see that other towns are addressing the issue. And that's all I have for the committee tonight.
Okay, Jay, thank you. Can you put the agenda back up?
Yep, give me 2 seconds.
Thanks. I believe we're at the end of the agenda with that. So unless anybody has anything else, like Jay says, it's already 9 o'clock. If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and we'll be ready to make a decision next meeting on the proposed fish weir.
So moved.
Thank you. So see everybody at our next meeting in July.